Okay, so James Lambert, quite a special man you are. We've been talking off and on for quite a few years now, and both gone through some transformation. You're over in the UK at
Yeah.
the moment. Come close to coming over there to ask your assistance and to do some talks about a potential National Geographic show that I was going to do a little while ago, about something that you're involved in your past, and now you've had like a dramatic change, which, you know, hats off to you, all respect for what you've done, and for where you were to the person who you are now, and you know how you. I mean, it's really a remarkable story, and you know, I know from personal experience how hard that transformation would have been to go through. So I've got just the utmost respect for you. But for the people out there who don't know, you are an undefeated, unlicensed bare knuckle boxer. Now let's just quickly tap into that, because this isn't UFC that we're talking about. This isn't sanctioned. This isn't gloves. This isn't anything like that. You know, so can you give us a rundown of what it actually is to be an unlicensed bare knuckle boxer?
Well, actually, yes, Damien. I'll do my best, Damien, because like all of us, my life hasn't been atypical. And it's only, I suppose, in viewing it with the benefit of hindsight, that, as we know, is beautifully 2020, things have begun to get a little bit clearer. And I suppose, to give the listeners some context, I suppose I like to describe that I almost literally came out fighting, in as much as I was born 7 weeks premature at a time when that really meant, I mean, I was rushed away before my mum could even cuddle me. And they now know there's all sorts of science in that doesn't create a bond. You can become alienated. Subsequent feelings that I did all endure, and I was whisked straight into an incubator where my life was touch and go for, I believe, several weeks. And my mother and father, they were told not to touch me, and they just could look at me through the glass. And my mum since told me she couldn't resist putting her little finger through this tiny hole for some kind of connection. And so, as I say, I seemed like I came out fighting, and it seemed that it just continued. And this was both through school, against any and all kind of authority. I always had a tremendous amount of energy, Damien. Rather like yourself, I was always interested in the physical. Football, or soccer as the Americans say, from an earlier age, and boxing in particular, yes, at that point with gloves. Although albeit very thin ones, I remember when I was in primary school, I used to get these, there were some very thin winter gloves, and me and my friends used to bash each other's brains out in the playground. But it was all in good spirits, funnily enough. It was a really sort of British thing that patted each other's lips and nose, and then we shook hands and said, "Jolly good show," and went into class together. So that was the more good-natured side of things. However, as I got older, people got heavier, and then reputation started to build. Things did become, I'll say it as it was, profoundly more uglier, profoundly more violent, and in time, a lot more dangerous. For, quite unbeknownst to me originally, when I was a young man, working on the door and running security as a bouncer or a doorman, as some call it, I began to. Violence was an everyday occurrence. It happened every night. You had to get rid of people that didn't want to leave effectively, whether they were mobbed up sort of gypsies, or indeed a hen night or a stag night that had got out of control, even indeed a pack of rugby people. So I suppose I very quickly found I had talent for looking after myself and others through the physical side. Unfortunately, at that time, my emotional intelligence hadn't quite advanced at the same speed as my physicality. So this led to a very painful disconnect, not only in my psyche, but I now realize up here, because James Lambert is, and always will be a peaceful soul. However, the circumstances I found myself embroiled in were so disparate to that, so utterly contrast to that peaceful person I wanted to be. This disconnect caused me a great deal of mental pain, or every night there was indeed violence. And this didn't continue, as I say, to finish this loop, Damien. The people I came into contact with, ultimately, they were unpleasant men, and they used to run, to various degrees and in different things, organized crime. And eventually I found myself, again, originally quite unbeknownst to me, but fighting bare knuckle, but not for glory in the ring or to get some kind of belt, as in the UFC, or indeed the modern resurgence of sanctioned BKB, where you can fight for belts. This was actually to stop further bloodshed in huge wars. So it was easier for two to go to war rather than two rival fractions, if that makes sense. So yeah, there was a lot of pain and violence. But as I say, I'm privileged to stand before you, where many of my peers, many of my former associates are no longer here, to say that I turned my wounds into wisdom and my pain into passion. And that's why I have a complete dedication to passion. Indeed, I live for doing what I can to really transform men's anger against themselves, against the world, into something and more helpful, and along the way, saving the relationships that matter to them, mate.
And what got to that point where you went, this is enough, and made that solid change to do that? Like, was it something that you did just, or did you slowly transition away from it? Because I can imagine some of those sorts of people that you're talking about may not have been so quick just to go, okay, you're giving it up, all right, see you later, and then you're out.
Very well said. No, you're exactly right. It has been a rather convoluted and drawn out thing. It wasn't, I mean, I've been asked before, I wish it was as simple as, the clouds parted, everything made sense, and I could just walk away from everything. That wasn't the case. And as you say, particularly when there's money involved, people maybe or are still upset. However, this brings me to a point that I'm very passionate about, in whether it's doing some of the extraordinary endurance events you've done, or making a seemingly from the out a drastic or otherwise life change in my own life. All of us are presented with choices every day. What we're going to put in our mouth. Are we going to pick up that Coca-Cola or a water or a fresh smoothie? We're all presented with choices. And although I leave other people to say that's a big choice, that's a small one, I believe in the micro and the macro, which means what, Damien? Every choice is significant because it's interconnected. And the choice me and you are making today to be positive or otherwise, this 6 months down the line, 6 years down the line, when you extrapolate that has a really big difference, hopefully for the positive. So no, to answer your question more quickly, it was something that continues today. Is everyone happy I've changed? No, far from it. In fact, ironically, I think I've probably got more enemies now I've dedicated to my life peace than I did when I was immersed in violence. Now, you can call that ironic, it is what it is. But as I say, I would rather stand, or interestingly, I would rather maybe even fall for who I am today than stand behind the persona that no longer fits. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Man, I mean, it's absolutely incredible to go through that change, but also to have those people there as well, dictating who you are and keeping you in there. And now still having that, that form of violence and aggression that's still around you, even though that you've walked away from that as well, and knowing that it's still there. But keeping true to yourself, and I guess not relapsing, going back to that world, which, you know, I guess there would have been pressure over the years for you to do that, and maybe threats onto your life to do it, but to stay strong of who you are for that, you know, and to understand that change. Because I mean, the hard part is it's like with anyone, like if you do something enough, that becomes your normal. And as I you know, well, know too well, as also that, you know, violence can become your normal as well. You know, what you see and what you've endured and what you've given as well can seem like normal actions and reactions as well. You know what I mean? Like I spent a lot of times on the doors myself. I spent 11 years doing that, and you know, just things and people that you have to deal with. Like it builds up the resilience of who you are. And you know, you can take everything like a grain of salt that people call you, because you know, you get called everything, and you can't, you know, got to have thick skin standing on the door, or else you're just going to be punching on every second, you know, with everyone that comes into the place.
Yes.
You know, but it's so yeah, I mean, it's a tricky game when you're on the door as well, and that's what makes you a good doorman, to be able to just have that laugh and pick the actions and reactions, you know, from your choices, and pick your opponent. You know when to just go to step up, or just to let him know he's just going to shoot his mouth off, and that's about it. You know, you know, and it comes to that point that you've spoken about before of, you know, it's the quiet ones that you got to watch out for, not the ones that are all lippy and mouthy, you know, because they're already expelling all of their energy. So, you know, they're not going to do anything. It's the ones that are quiet, they're just standing around the corner and just going to smack a bottle across your head or something, you know. That's they're the ones that you got to sort of watch out for, that I found. But for you, like, to come out of that, you know, like, I want to ask you, look, I know you've transformed your life completely from where you are to where you were and where you are now. But I do want to ask, is that aggression, and is that anger, and is that violence still a part of you in a natural form, but you know how to channel your energy in action?
Yes, it's a very good question, Damien. Can you still hear me? Okay, it was just
Yeah,
breaking
I've
up.
got you.
Yeah.
Yep.
The short answer is it's absolutely still there, and to say anything otherwise would be painting through. I suppose what I've learned and what I am still doing, sometimes consciously, sometimes fortunately subconsciously, every single day, and I say every single day deliberately, is to channel that into more, I don't say good or bad, I say helpful or unhelpful pursuits. So typically, if somebody cuts me up while I'm driving today, there can be a momentary loss of control. There is a, you know, where you can see red. However, what
Yeah.
I've practiced and developed is what I've entitled the power of the pull. But this is something I swore blind I didn't have. So to give you some context, if that happened before, I would see red, chase them down, and if we were stopped at a red light, I would actively want to dispense some kind of justice, particularly if they got out the car first. I would always like let them make the first move, but then it was self-defense. My point being, I believed I had zero control. However, I've now learned, although it's but a 0.5 of a second, in the power of the pause, all of my control lies in what I choose to do, for it is a choice. So what does that mean? Today, yes, I get angry. Yes, I get displeased at others' rudeness or even hostility towards me. But I reclaim all of that power. Now, importantly, the next step, I can't just leave that in my body, because what I've realized, that comes out in various forms for me of self-harm behavior. So it could be through doing things that aren't good for me, whether it's my diet, it could be through alcohol previously, it could have just been violence. I've realized now was my form of self-harm. My self-esteem got so damaged, if you like, that I didn't want to just kill myself through an external means. I put myself in a dangerous situation, for I didn't care, Damien, truly, if I lived or I died. But again, so what I do,
Yeah.
so I then act. So rather than hitting something physically, I will choose to maybe write down something or prepare a post for my Facebook group, prepare a positive video that I can share with the men that follow me. So it's all about repurposing, effectively using anger as fuel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like even just talking about this, I start thinking about how I've reacted over the years, and can just totally relate to everything that you're saying. Like having gone through the fight sort of scene and training and everything as well, and just being able to channel that, and like yourself, anger side of things into still loving the fight arts, but just channeling it to wanting to learn more technical side of things, like wanting to be the best fighter. So it goes to that old thing, you're best fighter so you don't have to fight. You know what I mean? I'd stand on the stores and I wouldn't be scared, and no one would fight me, because I guess I had just some presence or some look or something that they would just go, nah, and they would try and pick on the bigger guys next to me. And they'd be like, he's smaller than us, why don't you go to him? Like, no, we're not going to mess with him, But I was probably the happiest there as well, because I'd been able to shift that violence around. So yeah, it was that transition. But also, you mentioned something about, you didn't want to do the self-harm to yourself. So, it was a way that I guess you didn't have to face that, but it was whatever happened. And for me, that was kind of like, I had those moments through extreme sports, just paddle out in whatever, or go snowboarding and launch off cliffs and go, well, if I go, I go. That's it, without me doing it myself, even though I had a few attempts on my own life, because I was just like, well, shit, this isn't working. I'm throwing myself off cliffs and I'm still here. What's going on, But things are very different now. And, I don't have any emotional attachment to the aggression or the aggression of my past anymore. But of course, it's that side, that natural side is still there, because like yourself, we're born into this. It's not like we just wake up and we went, hey, we want to be violent people. This is what we were born into. It was a part of my household. Every single day was violence, and that's just how it was, and that became the normal. And it's, I've still had those moments where you've just got where first, like, the little voice comes in and goes, this guy just needs a punch in the face. But at the same time, like, well, you don't do that anymore, So it's, but so I kind of have a bit of a giggle to myself when people have a go at me or try and rip me off or do whatever, wrong to me. I'm just like, oh man, like it's, it's kind of, I don't know. I have like little funny moments like that, but also proud of myself, and I don't need to express it to them and go into the whole big story to them about it. It's just like, shit, like you just don't know, So it's,
I understand.
But yeah, look, it's definitely made me more humble over the years, and and that's why I can get myself into sticky situations all around the world, with all sorts of characters as I do, and always stay happy, because we've been through it. We know we can handle ourselves, but we know that we stay happy, and we don't have to now. And going back to what you're saying with the guys who might not like your lifestyle change, I bet within them there's either a jealousy that they wish they could get out of it and just don't have the courage to get out of that scene as well. But also, they would admire what you've done, from who you were to who you are now, and the motivation that you give to other people. It's something powerful, and it's something that I think most men in the world can respect. And also for you to still be here, because like you said, there's so many other men who are in that position like yourself who just aren't here anymore for whatever reason.
Yeah. No, I think, no, you're right, Damien. I think for me, the journey has really been, as you know, we live in part in a world of duality. And so I don't seek to deny our very physicality. And yes, as a man, our maleness. I don't seek to deny that. People often, there was a move, toxic masculinity. I don't believe masculinity is toxic. Nothing is inherently. It's like a tool. I can use spade to dig for vegetables, or I can smash someone's skull in. The spade is not the asset as men. Is fundamentally, and I embody, I like using my body. As you say, I have recently started hitting the punch bag again to express that physicality, to express that rage. However, as I work out, you know, through weights and hitting things, I've also learned the art of duality of working in. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
That means some of the same gentle practices that some of the badass warriors that ever lived, the samurai, also practiced. You see, they did the art of calligraphy or tea making, the gentle arts. This was to temper that, because they knew that if you just go with the egoic brutality of the physical, you're going to get a fucking bullet. And that's what we do see today. We see a lot of people that are trained to physically dispense justice, whether they're in authority as the police or just trained at their local dojo or UFC gym. But unless they discipline, they counter that with intelligence, with emotion, like with compassion and kindness. To me, that doesn't mean shit. So a real man, a real human being, is about tempering this very raw, visceral, getting down and being able to protect our loved ones and ourselves, but also balancing that with some of the more gentle, softer so-called emotions that nevertheless, Damien, I found, and I don't know about you, brother, I found that to control my anger was far harder than just resorting to violence.
Yeah, definitely. My brother, he describes it like the Hulk. You know, it's always in there. You know, he's you know, just the nice normal guy on the outside, but he's just sitting on the inside. You know, and he's just got to do his things just to keep it at bay for himself. You know, so he's been able to control it for many years of his life. You know, we both grew up in similar circumstances, and you know, so you know, I'm super proud of him and what he's been able to do, because he was just a naturally really aggressive kid at school, and you know, always in fights, constantly. So it's to him to make that big change and never go to jail, and just, you know, have a beautiful family and a nice career and everything now, to have that complete change. You know, and he's just like this soft and gentle guy, and he's a great father to his 3 boys, and you know, it's really amazing to watch that transformation. You know, we've gone our different ways. I went traveling the world and I went looking for the answers, and he just he learned how to manage it, and same, just redirect it, you know, and he redirects that energy into his boys and their sports on the weekend, which is amazing.
What's his name, Damien?
Scott. His name's Scott.
Massive respect to Scott. You know, that is honestly wonderful, and good for him, and I'm pleased for him.
Yeah, I mean, but it's, you know, some people, they don't, you know. I know other people have been in those situations, and like you said, they're still lashing out. They don't have that, they don't take that breath, they don't take that second just to go, hey, you know, like, and it's about having that balance. And I don't believe, like, you know, sure, there's toxic masculinity, but I think it's more so, it's just toxic people in the world.
Well
you know?
said. Well said.
Not just toxic masculinity. You know, I think a man still needs to be strong. You know, we need to be men. We need to, you know, it goes back to the days of hunting for our family and everything. You know, this is who we are, but you need to show both sides of it also. You know, you can't just be soft all the time. But you know, it's about understanding the feminine side in ourselves as well. You know, that more softer side, and when both need to be used, you know, and it's about being able to channel those, and about exploring those, not just not putting walls up, or not just being too heavy-handed on one way or the other way. You know, it's about having that balance, that fine balance in between. Like you said, it's that physical balance, but also it's that inner balance as well. It's the mind balance, it's the spirit balance also of who we are, you know, and just you know, exploring that and allowing ourselves to explore our emotions. as well. So we know how to act and react and what we should be doing, you know, unless we explore them, then we kind of get stuck with just going in a habitual way of how we think we're supposed to act in that situation, rather than stopping and going, I've got more choices here.
Yeah, well said. That it's a beautiful word, you know, choices. This is what I'm all about. And fundamentally, yeah, I agree with what you say, Damien, because get it right. I would rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. So there is a very real aspect, you know, I want to be able to, but nevertheless, I think that word soft, it's misleading. And I say that to say this, soft, when I grew up, and maybe yourself, particularly on the doors, just even around drunken boys down the pub, soft by its very nature, you're like, hey, you're soft, bro. You know, what's that? No, I actually believe soft can actually be hard. What do I mean by that? I reiterate and repeat very deliberately. For me to be soft, i.e. gentle, that was fucking the hardest thing I've ever had to do. So let's get it right with the context. For other cowards, that might be hard. But for someone that's used to violence, it was easy for me to throw my hands up and to row with you. It was hard for me to put them down and to offer my hand as a handshake. That was fucking hard. So you can say it's soft, but it was the hardest thing I've yet to do. So I believe, you know, these things can be misinterpreted, and it's all about context and also knowing yourself and where you've come from.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, totally, absolutely agree to it. You know, and it's and like I said at the start, you know, it makes you more humble as a person. You know, and it's built up that resilience. You know, knowing what we've done, knowing where we've come from, but knowing who we are right now as well. You know, we've explored ourselves to the extreme on both sides to be able to have that balance.
Yes.
You know, and to be able to act and react and have those choices when they're needed, right there and then. You know, you know, it's just, you know, I think for us, it's great learning. You know, and it's something that a lot of people won't experience and may listen to this and not fully comprehend of you know, the change that you've made in your life and what I've made as well. You know, so it's you know, but I think anyone else who's out there in that situation, you know, like you said, you know, it's not the soft word to not fight. You know, it's better if you don't. You know, it's just whatever. What someone calls your name, someone says something to you, who cares? You know, as long as you know, you have your morals and intentions right, and you know what you're doing, and you know your purpose and your goals in life. You know, people are always going to say stuff. You know, and it's even, you know, even like with myself, and look at say big celebrities and that, they're always getting mocked and dogged, and everyone's always trolling them on the internet, or this and that, hate this about them, like this about them, you know, constantly. You know, if they let everything get to them, like they would never do what they do. You know what I mean? So it's about just knowing, so long as you have that strong sense of who you are and your own morals and intentions, then it doesn't really matter what's happening around us or what people are saying to us, because it's just like, no worries. People can have whatever choices they want to make and think whatever they want to think, their own opinions. No worry. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions in their own ways. But, you know, if it doesn't suit with what I'm doing, or you're reading me a wrong way, well, let's just step you a little bit over here, you know, like, cause I've got some stuff to do, and it's obviously doesn't involve you, you know? So I'm on my path. You stay on yours. When you're ready, you can come back over. You know what I mean? So,
on that, I was.
But yeah, let's talk about what you're doing now, huh?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, no, it was just that. Just on that point, I just wanted to say. Recently, I was reading a fabulous thing that it talks to that. I wanted to get in there quickly. It said that everyone you know and everyone you've ever met all has a different idealized version of you in their brain. So when you realise that, so the guy you might just meet one time down the pub, he thinks of Damien, but then the missus that you know, the girlfriends that you knew, the postman, everyone so if you worry about all these different versions, they're all different. It's insane because everyone's got a different version. Not only that, they don't even know who the fuck they are most of the time. So what on earth? Why would you give any spoken meaning to what they think? You know, and again, thoughts are so arbitrary. sense. So, and again, in our other previous beautiful conversations, we've spoken about purpose. When a man or a woman has got a purpose, like you didn't even let sharks get in your way on that Pacific Ocean, so much less fuck the thoughts and opinions of the haters. So this is why I urge everyone that listening, when you really understand what you're about and what you stand for, honestly, opinions, and get this, in 60, 70, 80, 90 years time, none of this shit will matter anyway. We won't be here. So, you know, find out who you are, stick to your guns, not physically, ladies and gentlemen, this time, and then, you know, just go for it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have a little chat about what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, it's like life, as life finds me today. I am a speaker, although I'm still working my way up to your level. I am an author, got a couple books floating about on Amazon, and I suppose my real and absolute passion is as a coach. I work primarily with men, and it is specifically using my background as a very angry, violent man to transform their current anger in order to save their relationships. Because one of the things that upset me personally the most, Damien, in my own journey, is a lot of my anger away from where it was helpfully used, on the door, in the ring, in one of my underground unlicensed fights. Away from there, unfortunately, me being able to at that time not control my temper, I caused a lot of pain and a lot of worry to people I genuinely love. These were friends, these were my former fiance and my beautiful parents, and indeed maybe the public at large. And so what I realized is that my anger then was becoming toxic because it wasn't damaging those that it would be better served against, i.e. an opponent. So that's why that's particularly close to my heart, not just helping people transform their anger, transform it for what purpose, again, keyword purpose, to save the relationships that are important to them. So yeah, pretty much I work via Skype. That's why this current pandemic hasn't affected me much, with men worldwide. And I just have the growing privilege every week to collect a few more people with the help of people like you to spread my message, try and grow my Facebook page, and just really serve, just serve as best I can, Damien, you know?
Yeah, mate. I mean, like I said at the start, it's remarkable, and it's so inspiring as well, you know, to see that, and it's so needed. You know, definitely, you know, now, you know, there's a lot of people who might be hiding that aggression on the inside and being locked down in the house for a while, and you know, no money coming in can bring up some things, definitely, you know. So people like yourself are really needed now, and I encourage everyone to, you're feeling like that and feeling the aggression and you don't know how to come out of it, well, to give you a call and get in contact with you and chat about how you made this transition. You know, it's incredible. You know, it's why we first connected originally when I was going to come over there, and you know, to now be an author of books of self-help, and you know, realizing that this is something that a lot of men suffer from as well out there, with nowhere to really, I guess, let their anger go, or like we said, not being able to understand it and control it, and to know where to channel it a little bit better, you know. So they're humble within themselves, but not self-label them as them being soft, you know, that word soft. So it's about just being humble with it and knowing that you're still a warrior, you're still a man. But being a warrior, being a man, like we've spoken about, means you are humbled in life, and you know, it's there when you need it, but for the most part it's not needed. And sometimes that aggression can be just channeled to being able to run harder, you know, like you just put that more dominance on yourself, you know, to be able to do whatever physical activity that it is, be able to keep going.
That well said, Damien. And
mate, we're just about out of time here.
Sure.
Bloody little Zoom call. But mate, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting